Hey guys, welcome back. After an absurdly long 10-month wait, Halo Infinite Season 3 has finally arrived, and so that means it's time for me to give my brutally honest thoughts on it. It's been a while since we've done one of these actually. Feels kind of good to be back, I'm not gonna lie. As you can see on the timeline and also in the timestamps in the description, I've sorted this video by the things that I think are good in this update, the things that I'm kind of split on, and the things that I'm not as much of a fan of. So if you want to skip to any of those sections, then just use the timeline or the timestamps. But with that said, let's begin. Starting off with the good, the amount of content in this update, I can't believe I'm saying these words about Halo Infinite, but the amount of content in this update is genuinely really good. It's a huge step up from Season 2. It's not just a good amount of content in terms of Halo's, so far, awful attempt at live service. I think it's a good amount of content for a live service, full stop. If we've hit seasonality now, and we can expect seasons every, 3 to 4 months, and they're gonna have this much content in them every time, then that is a very good sign for this game's live service. That's how it should have been from the get-go, and if that's how it's going to be from now on, then props 343 for finally getting there. This is a huge step up from the amount of content that we had in Season 2 and any previous season that we had. It's not just a good amount of content for Halo's, so far, awful attempt at live service. I honestly think it's a good amount of content for a live service, full stop. Looking at it, we've got 3 maps, some new modes, some of which are coming later on in the season, a new weapon, a new piece of equipment, 2 armor cores, new armor, loads of stuff like that. If we've hit seasonality now, right, and we can expect this amount of content coming in a season every 3 to 4 months, then that is a very good sign. That's a huge improvement over Season 2 and everything that came before. The game finally feels like it has a proper live service. And on the topic of good and live service, 2 things that I'd never thought I'd say in the same sentence together, the live service narrative, it's actually kind of good now. It's very clear that a conscious effort was put into raising the absurdly low quality bar that Season 2 started with the narrative. The cutscenes, both the cutscenes in this season, are leagues ahead of anything Season 2 had. The narrative actually feels like it has something about it now. It feels like it has meat to it. It's not just an empty pie anymore. The characters feel like actual characters instead of just vectors to get us to go and buy stuff in the store. It feels like this story has actual stakes to it now. Unlike Season 2, this sounds weird, right? But unlike Season 2, the narrative actually feels like a narrative now, instead of just an NPC telling you to go and play multiplayer. It's clear that a massive effort was made to boost the quality of the story, and I'd say that effort was absolutely successful. They've even gone as far as changing parts of maps to line up with the story, to make it feel like the story is actually taking place instead of just being some random, entirely disconnected cutscene. I love the fact that they've added the Oni symbol from the cutscene to the door on Livefire, and also the sound of what appears to be a portal behind the door actually on the map. That kind of stuff, like going in and modifying existing maps to line up with the story, is my jam. It takes me back to Zombies Easter eggs back in the day that I have a huge love for. And I really hope we get more of this in the future. I mean, hell, I'd kind of like to see them go further with this and maybe even add little Easter egg quests or something, kind of like zombies, into maps to line up with this narrative and to kind of help us become more active participants in the narrative, because they've already got our Spartans in the cutscene. Why not take that one step further and have us actually progress the story ourselves, opposed to just being in the cutscene? I don't know, just an idea, but I think it could work really well. Just quick FYI, I'm going to have a full breakdown of the live service narrative and all the new story out either tomorrow or Saturday, so make sure you ring the bell and subscribe if you haven't done already so you don't miss that video. This cutscene also made me remember how much I love the drones and miss them as well. I think their presentation in this cutscene was really cool. They looked just like the Bungie drones. They didn't undergo some radical redesign, which I'm very happy about. And the way that they were scurrying about under the sand and then pulled in under was so cool. I really wish they were in the game instead of the skimmers, to be honest with you. The drones were just more interesting versions of the skimmers, so hopefully, fingers crossed, at some point in the future, we get some kind of PvE mode where the drones do make a return again. I can hope. The only critical thing I've got to say about the live service narrative is the fact that the cutscenes and how you watch them is really awkward. They're buried in like 3 different sub-menus. You have to go into like 4 different Battle Pass sub-menus and then press Y to open up like another sub-menu and load them, which seems really awkward. I kind of wish 343 would just add like a tab in the main menu on the main screen that just says like cutscenes and you can play them, because right now they're quite awkward to find. But other than that, the live service narrative has actually gotten good, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm actually kind of excited to see where it goes. My god, I must be dreaming. Quick reminder, if you want to play Halo in style, then I've partnered up with Apex Gaming PCs to bring you my very own line of custom Flood-themed PCs. From the mid-tier Pureform build to the higher-end Gravemind and Primordial builds, there's a PC build here for any type of gamer, all built perfectly to run Infinite and MCC like a dream. And if you use code HIDDEN at checkout, you can get up to $250 off your order. Link in the description. There's also another narrative thing that I like about this season, the Fracture. They've actually made it so this Fracture feels more connected to the regular Halo universe, as opposed to being just like some complete other fanfiction tier universe. Now, I never hated the idea of Fractures. Having like a feudal Japan era Spartan look kind of cool, and having like a World War I era themed Spartan armor was also kind of cool, but I did start to get a little bit tired of them feeling just completely disconnected from Halo. Like, I liked how the armors looked, but narratively, they just didn't feel like they were in the Halo universe at all. Whereas now, with the Chimera Core, the idea is that it's like AI-created Spartan armor, so like creative Spartan armor pretty much, which, at least narratively, is pretty cool. I think visually, they look absolutely god-fucking awful, but more on that later, but at least narratively, they feel more fitting for Halo now. So, moving on to something that's not narrative, the new maps, honestly, I like them all. So, Chasm is the smaller 4v4 map, which looks really, really good. I think it plays decently. It's not like Lockout by any means, like, it's no Lockout, Sanctuary, Guardian, Midship, etc., but not every map needs to be like that level of quality. I think every game kind of needs its handful of like decent maps, not insane maps, like decent maps to make you respect the better maps more, if that makes any sense. And I think Chasm's one of those. It does kind of remind me of like Boarding Action Light, which I'm all for. You guys know that I love Combat Evolved maps, so any reference to them I will be happy about. I'm also a big fan of repurposing campaign areas from multiplayer maps as well. Like, it's very clear that Chasm has repurposed areas from Foundations for a multiplayer map, and I like that. Reach did that quite a lot. And some people say it's lazy, but I disagree. There's a good statement where it's like, work smarter, not harder. And I think that's what this is. If an area is well suited for a multiplayer environment that doesn't necessitate creating an entirely new area for it, then why not use it? I see no harm in that. So hopefully in the future we get more maps like this that are based on campaign areas. Hopefully that will allow them to get more maps out sooner and quicker. So yeah, Chasm is pretty good overall. Cliffhanger, so far, I really like. It feels like a much more socially designed map. It's very clearly not designed with competitive in mind at all, which I am a big fan of. I'm a huge competitive Halo fan, but just the overemphasis on competitive in every corner of like Halo 5 and Halo Infinite is really off-putting, so it's nice to see some actual casual content getting made finally. The map has quite a lot of dead space, which sounds bad, but I don't think it is. I really like maps that have quite a lot of dead space. I hate it when maps have like all that dead space just cut, so they just feel really refined and, again, almost too competitive. They just feel too sweaty because of that. Having dead space on a map allows for more calm and chill moments between fights where you can kind of regain your mental breath, so to speak, and this map has quite a lot of that, which I like. I'd say the overall look of this map is quite Reach-esque, but it has some real nice aesthetic variety compared to what the game already has. Having like snowy mountaintops is really nice, and the skybox of the map is really cool as well. It's a very nice looking map, and there's also on Escalation Slayer, it seems only, there's like this massive corruption wall or something around the map with like little corruption grids on some of the walls. I don't know if that's going to link to the narrative in some way, but it's certainly an interesting look. But all in all, this is a fun, casual focus map, which is something that this game needs a lot more of. And then we have the new big team battle map, Oasis, which is getting a 0 out of 10 for me because there's no Wonderwall Easter egg. I joke, of course. On the real though, this map is absolutely gorgeous. The Desert Oasis Foreigner palette is really, really, really nice. And so are like the UNSC cave desert areas as well. And then you've got the skybox, which is just a cherry on top. Absolutely gorgeous. It also plays pretty well as well. When they initially showed this map off, it looked way too claustrophobic for a BTB map, but it's not claustrophobic at all. It's actually quite open, which is a very nice surprise. I found that it played pretty well. Oh, and it also has classic BTB vehicle spawns as well, which are unbelievably better than Infinite's drop-in system that is like almost unanimously disliked. I don't know why they haven't got rid of that yet. This map is so much nicer, even though the vehicle that like spawns classically is a wasp that spawns in the middle of the map, which is a weird choice considering that thing is made of like paper mache. It still feels better than having to wait for like a random amount of time for a pelican to just drop it in. It's so much nicer having this consistency. Moving over to modes, the only new mode so far in this update is gun game, or Escalation Slayer. It's gun game. It's team-based gun game, which I like. I mean, it's in MCC already, and it was good in that, and it works in this as well. Plays well as a team-based mode, although I do hope they add like a traditional like free-for-all gun game version of it to matchmaking, because I don't know, for me, gun game was always like a really good free-for-all mode, more so than a team mode. Having the oddball as the final weapon, though, is a really nice touch. It's kind of funny seeing everyone running around the map with an oddball in their hand at the end of the game. It's quite cool. Now, this next positive might sound really weird, considering I strongly dislike Infinite's approach to emblems. I wish they'd just add classic emblem customization back, but of course, for whatever peculiar reason they choose not to. However, I will say they've added some new emblems called heat map emblems, which are like blueprints of classic maps like Lockout, Blood Gulch, Guardian, Narrows, Sidewinder, etc., which are very cool emblems. I will give them credit where it's due. I do like these emblems, but please give us classic emblem customization back. This new system is just, it's awful. Just give us the classic one back, please. And finally, I really like the refreshers they've done to the menus as well in this game. The new main menu, multiplayer menu, and surprisingly campaign menu backgrounds, and also the new menu music as well, are a very nice new coat of paint for the game. It helps to kind of spruce the game up and break any association with the old menus that people associate with Season 2 and the launch of the game, which weren't exactly great. So breaking those associations and giving the game a new coat of paint is very nice. I like them a lot. Okay then, let's get on to the things that I'm kind of split on. Some good and some bad. Starting out with the DMR, or the Bandit, but I'm just going to call it the DMR. It's a DMR without scope, right? Starting off with the good, the animations for the DMR are really, really, really nice. I think the animations are really well done. And I like how it sounds as well. I also love the model. I used to really, really dislike Reach's DMR model. Like, I strongly disliked it. But it's grown on me over the years, and I've got to admit, I absolutely adore the Bandit model. I think it looks beautiful. But that's pretty much where my positives end. I think not having D-scope on a precision weapon is a bad idea. Precision weapons should always have D-scope regardless of whether their scope has like an 8 times magnification or a 1.4 times magnification. D-scope should always be there. I'll be honest, I don't really enjoy using this thing because of the obnoxious recoil. It just feels really weird. Honestly, I feel like I'm using like a World at War PPSH or something when I fire this thing. Like, the recoil is aggressive. I've never really liked recoil in Halo, to be honest with you. I didn't really like it when Halo 3 gave the SMG an egregious amount of recoil. There's just something about it. I can't really pinpoint why. I just don't really like recoil in Halo, or at least aggressive recoil, which is what this thing has. I just find it quite clunky to use in 1v1s. It's clearly just meant to be like a Halo 5 Magnum 2.0, which again, I strongly dislike. I really don't want to return to like a Halo 5 Magnum meta, but I can see that being what happens with this game now that we have the Bandit. My main issue though is that of all the weapons this game needed, of all the weapons they could have added back to this game to spruce the sandbox up a little bit, the DMR is like at the absolute bottom of that list. Like, there are so many more interesting weapons with like gimmicks to them that would spice the sandbox up so much. Like, just off the top of my head, the fuel rod, the plasma rifle, a proper shotgun, a flamethrower, a brute shot, a spiker, a plasma caster, a sticky detonator, the fucking armament blaster that was cut from the game, add the gravity gun that was cut from Halo 1. Literally any weapon in the history of this franchise would have been more interesting to add than the DMR. The absolute last thing this game needed was another precision weapon. And not just another precision weapon, but one that's just so mundane and dull. You pull the trigger once and one bullet comes out. That's like it. Like, that's so dull. The sandbox in this game is already highly refined, and because for some silly reason every single weapon now has a headshot multiplier, it's a lot more precision based and sweaty than previous sandboxes. It doesn't need any more precision weapons that are aimed at min-maxing and being really competitive. It needs more fun, casual, social, gimmicky weapons, like I said, like the fuel rod, like the plasma caster, like the brute shot, literally almost every non-precision weapon from the previous game would have been a better addition to the game than the DMR. They also didn't add it to the campaign either, so I guess campaign is just never getting anything new then. Moving on to the Shroud screen, the new piece of equipment, I think functionally it's pretty good. It's nice to have more neutral equipment in this game that affects both allies and enemies equally, as opposed to the glorified Spartan abilities that are like half of the equipment so far. I also think visually and audially, it looks and sounds really, really cool. However, I do have an issue with it. I think quite a lot of people are going to look at this thing and think it's a bubble shield, because it looks more like a traditional bubble shield or drop shield than it does a smoke grenade. I get that they've gone for this kind of futuristic smoke grenade look, and I think it looks really cool, but I don't think it conveys its use very well. When you shoot it, it even has impact marks where your bullets hit the Shroud screen and go through, but it looks like the bullets are being stopped because there's an impact mark. So people are going to look at that and think, oh, it's a bubble shield, when it's not, it's a smoke grenade. I think it should have looked more smoke grenade-y and less bubble shieldy, but it is what it is. At least it looks cool. Now, let's talk about coatings. These are in the split category because there are some new coatings that I really like and that have gone in the direction that I was hoping coatings would go in originally. In particular, military camo patterns. There's quite a lot of desert camo and multicam patterns that you can put on not just Spartans but guns as well, which is so much better than having an egregious amount of just silly, over-the-top, wacky, stupid-looking color combinations. Actually, grounded-looking coatings for once, which is good. But at the same time, this season just exacerbates the issue of coatings even more. When they tried to convince us years ago that we'd end up preferring the coating system to classic color customization, yeah, I ain't buying it, dude. This stuff is ridiculous. I mean, the mere fact, dude, that if I want to have a white SPI Spartan, the only way I can do that is by spending $20 on a bundle full of tons of other crap that I don't want, just to get a coating that only works on SPI and is the only white coating for SPI. That is the only way I can have white SPI armor, by buying this ridiculously overpriced bundle. This is just the core issue with the coating system, just down to a T. It is not better than classic color customization. There is nothing about this that's better. I honestly don't even care what kind of new coatings they add. It will never be better than being able to customize my primary, secondary, and tertiary colors myself under my own volition in any way that I want. And what's annoying is that they've added these steel coatings for free in this patch, which are actually really good and look like traditional color combinations. I don't understand why we can't customize these coatings freely ourselves. They look just like the color customization in Halo 3. Let us customize this ourselves at the very least. And that leads into the stuff that I'm not much of a fan of in this update, starting out with armor. Firstly, the SPI core. I think the armor itself is pretty good. I really like the chests, the utilities, and the wrist attachments. They look really good. Quite a lot of variety as well. There's actually a tack belt, which is really cool. But good God, the helmets are atrocious. Not good, but compared to the Chimera core, dear God, they look like Halo 3 armor compared to the Chimera core. The Chimera core looks god fucking awful.
We are creatures that should not exist by natural law.
That sounds god fucking awful, Rush.
They even went as far as giving Tyler 1 his very own Mjolnir helmet for his dented I can't believe they made this helmet. This helmet had to have been inspired by this Tyler 1 meme. I refuse to believe that it's not. I really don't get why partly SPI and definitely Chimera have gone back to Halo 5 design philosophies for armor when there was a very clear, massive effort made with Infinite to move away from that very largely disliked design philosophy and back to like a Halo 3, Halo Reach, Bungie style of armor. I don't know why we've gone back to it with these cores, because like they don't look good. You compare some of these armors to the Mark 7 ones, in particular, right? You compare like the Chimera helmets, which look god awful, or like most of the SPI ones, with some of the new Mark 7 helmets that were literally added this update. Like, dude, look at Menashai. This is a fucking masterpiece. This helmet is a goddamn masterpiece. This is gorgeous. This was made by the same company and put in the game in the same update as this. Make it make sense, please. And speaking of armor, there have been no further advancements made to cross-core customization whatsoever. In fact, it really seems like they're just digging the hole deeper with cross-core as opposed to fixing the issue. Instead of making more armor cross-core, they're just adding more cores. They've added so many new pieces of armor and a shitload of new coatings, a large majority of which are core locked, while also making zero progress on cross-core customization. It really just feels like they're doubling down on cores at this point and not actually fixing it. I honestly wish that they'd stop adding armor and instead pivot that focus to getting as much armor cross-core as possible. I would rather have the existing armor be compatible on any core than have new armor added. And speaking of armor and unlocks, the Battle Pass still has loads of unnecessary filler in it, loads of double XP tokens and challenge skips that just have no reason being in there, while they're also adding loads of new armor to the store. Armor that should be unlockable via gameplay, armor that in almost every recent Halo game was unlockable via gameplay, but is now in the store. Are you a fan of the iconic and long-standing security helmet? The helmet that stems even further back than Halo to Marathon? Well, give us $20 and buy a bundle that's got loads of other crap in it that you probably don't want, or you're not getting it. Sorry. You know what really annoys me as well? They've added 5 new helmets for Mark 7, right? And 2 of these helmets are new versions of very beloved and very iconic helmets from past Halo games, Security and Mark 5, right? And of all the 5 helmets, 3 are available in the Battle Pass, and 2 are available only in the store. And I bet you can't guess which ones are locked to the store. Yeah, they're the classic ones. The Mark 5 looking one and Security are locked to the store. That just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. And tying the past few points together is this season's renewed focus on the shop and putting helmets that they know people are going to love behind a paywall. Yes, I know that this game is free to play, live service, but it's a Halo game, right? Halo games have standards. They have a long-running tradition of having deeply fleshed out and beloved progression unlock systems where you have to work for your armor. And they're putting stuff behind... I'm sorry, I know it's a broken record at this point, but I don't really care. Customization for me is one of my favorite parts about Halo long term. Since Halo 2, actually. Since Halo 2, I used to spend so long even just changing my colors from my Spartan and Elite in Halo 2. And just seeing like how good this system could be. Like, the bare bones of Infinite's customization could be so good, but it's just completely ruined by the lack of any form of meaningful unlocks. Please, for the love of God, I know this is never going to happen, but for whatever the next Halo game is in however many years or decades at this point, please don't put a fucking item store in there. Please don't do this again. I'm begging you.
Yeah. Like that's ever gonna happen. What a load.
Right, moving on from those critical things to a slightly related but slightly unrelated thing. I'm getting some pretty consistent crashes in this update, specifically when I go to the customization screen. If I try and customize any set of armor for like 20 or 30 seconds, the game will just crash. Happened 6 times on stream the other night, which isn't great. I've submitted a bug report, so hopefully that gets fixed soon, but just keep in mind that that may be an issue that other people are facing as well. So, despite the negatives that I just talked about, overall, I think this is actually a pretty good update. I would give it probably a 7.5 out of 10 overall, but it kind of leads to my final, I guess this is more of a split point, but it's just kind of depressing to see that we could have had updates like this consistently after launch, and had we had updates like this every 3 months after launch with no 10-month breaks or anything like that, I just can't help but think that this game would be in such a different place right now. Like, if we had this caliber of update with Season 2 last February, and then Season 3 when it was meant to come out last May, and so on, I think this game would be doing so much better now. It just sucks seeing what this game is actually capable of, and knowing that it probably won't ever reach its true potential because it's just missed the boat now. Like, trust me, I would absolutely love to be wrong. I'd love to be wrong and say, and for this game to all of a sudden blow up again and get really popular. But personally, I don't think it's going to happen. I think the best shot at that is Tatanka releasing and being a huge hit and driving people to play in this game. But besides that, again, I'd love to be wrong, but I just don't see this game all of a sudden exploding in popularity again. But yeah, overall, a 7.5 out of 10. I think most of the new stuff is, yeah, for the most part, really good. The issues with this update just come from existing problems that I have with the game just being exacerbated and worsened, like the lack of crosscore, the shop stuff, battle pass, stuff like that. I do think this update is definitely a step in the right direction, but how many times have we said that phrase, step in the right direction, over the last God knows how many years, to have it lead to nothing? That's my issue. I'm getting real tired of saying step in the right direction, because it never ends up leading to that so-called right direction, does it? But who knows, man? Who knows? So, leave your thoughts down below in the comments on Season 3. Let me know what you think. If you're playing again, if you're interested in Infinite again, or if you're skipping it, let me know. Like I said earlier on, I'm going to have my Infinite Season 3 narrative breakdown video coming either tomorrow or Saturday. It depends how quick I can get it out. So, yeah, make sure you ring the bell so you don't miss that. Subscribe if you haven't done already. Of course, hit that big old button. And with that said, let's round it out here. I want to give a massive thank you to all of my amazing patrons for the continued support over there, as per usual. Thank you all so much, and thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll catch you all in the next one.